areas worst affected. The study warns with the COVID-19 restrictions in place, a quick catch-up is unlikely. The government says it is determined children should not lose out because of the pandemic. And on exams, the schools minister Nick Gibbs
children should not lose out because of the pandemic. It's a bit fucking late for that when you've had them off for fucking 4 months, isn't it?
Will be made very soon. Away from schools,
don't the government take the piss?
Warned of chaos and hardship,
making out they care.
Back on the quarantine list.
Children shouldn't lose out because of the pandemic. For number one, there is no fucking pandemic. There never has been. So that's a double fucking whammy that kids have fucking lost out based on a fucking phony hoax.
Let's go back to the classroom. We'll go to Chris Mason, our political correspondent, not in the classroom but out and about in Westminster. Good morning, Chris. So pressure on the government.
I just heard him say the word unprecedented on some news before this at least 5 times in less than 5 minutes. So it's clear that they all ordered to use the word repeatedly. Unprecedented, regardless of what subject it is.
A really big moment for the government, which has promised that this moment would happen, and now hopes that it
will. So
they
clearly love the word.
That it will. It thinks that the vast majority of head teachers, from survey evidence, are pretty keen on opening schools and opening them fully, so that all pupils and all year groups can go back, albeit in these bubbles where either classes or year groups remain in close
fucking bubble. Who the fuck invented that?
Going about their business as normal, but keeping a distance, a social distance from other age groups within the school.
And let brain dead masses in the public, they will latch onto it, they'll start using the words.
Spreading the virus are much lower.
Oh, my kid's going in a bubble. I'm in a bubble at school.
At all. So from that
absolutely atrocious.
Confident, but they have a mountain of massive questions in their intro, which we can come to in a moment. Sticking with the whole question of school,
it's all been part of the plan. I'd love to see the paperwork, the government paperwork of all that.
Questions about precisely what will happen in a scenario where a pupil tests positive for the virus. Will that entire bubble, whether it's
bubble again
or a school year, be put into isolation for a fortnight, or could there be something a little less draconian, if you like, or significant than that?
A little less draconian. He said the word there, draconian, so he knows it's draconian.
Exams next summer, GCSEs, AS, and
well, that's how they take your piss out of it. They actually putting it in your fucking face, but you know, a lot of the public aren't fucking sharp enough to work it out. How bad the word draconian actually is. He's just said it.
Not putting a time frame on when the government.
What made it sounded sweet. Oh, you're right, just a little less draconian.
We'll come to a decision shortly so that schools know what the position will be. We've also, as I said, changed the assessment process as well to make sure that we can free up as much teaching time as possible so that those young people can catch up. And that's why it is so important that young people now return to school.
So important now? It was important never fucking shut down schools in the first place. How's about that, you fucking retard?
MPs in Westminster, is it a full house?
They are returning this morning from all over the UK, so what tends to happen at the beginning of the week is you don't really get a sense of how many are here until the afternoon, given that some are travelling quite some distance. There will still be the social distancing protocols in Parliament, just as there are in lots of other workplaces. So
not surprised there'll be social distancing in Parliament. Well, they won't put on a show for the public, don't they?
Chamber, but there's a real desire from the parliamentary authorities.
So it's been all along,
as much as they were doing before
the phony show
of government and scrutiny to continue. Cabinet has met this morning at the start of this autumn.
The very powerful brainwashing fucking TV.
Why? Because the cabinet room isn't big enough for the cabinet.
You can deliver the fucking poison into your fucking own home. That's how they do it, through your television.
Allows them all to be in the same place. No Zoom doom as far as the cabinet is concerned in autumn 2020, but there was a little bit of jeopardy for the Defence Secretary.
All of them in there are complicit. They all know what's going on.
Turning up in Downing Street, where you can always guarantee there's a few cameras loitering around, and he does something which was very un-2020. Ben Wallace shaking hands with someone in the street. We can't quite work out who he was shaking hands with, but clearly shaking hands with anyone.
They're all complicit in this New World Order agenda.
Incidents he'll be able to brush off, but perhaps not the attention he was hoping for on day one of the new parliamentary term. Stepping back to far more significant and weighty matters, massive challenges as
whole bunch of evil twats
in the weeks and months ahead, with the social and economic and health consequences of the coronavirus. A budget coming up in the autumn with huge questions about how the government pays the massive bills associated with the virus, and lots of speculation about the potential for tax rises. And there's Brexit to sort out.
You know, everybody's completely normal, aren't they, to bloody be saying they're cracking up with all this and they're feeling really frustrated and whatever else has come along with all this since this lockdown and everything, because this is literally all we've been rammed with
there's not enough going on
through the television since.
Movement in jobs behind the
you can't put your TV on at all
just hearing that the Prime Minister,
without hearing the words coronavirus.
That Simon Case is the new cabinet.
Quite a lot of times, you know, as soon as I turn it on, first word what came out of TV was coronavirus.
More well known than others. What's the significance of this, Chris?
Simon Case is going to become the most important person that prior to our conversation now you probably hadn't heard of, because he will become the Cabinet Secretary, the country's most senior civil servant. He's been working as a private secretary to the Prime Minister for some time.
All specially selected.
Pandemic. He used to
Public don't know now about anybody who's selected. They're doing it behind closed doors.
Much of the last 15 years in the civil service.
These people have been groomed years ahead.
So he's been in the civil service in pretty senior roles for some time.
They don't just appear and say, can I have a job?
That was part of the organisation of the Olympic
They've moved up the chain.
Back in 2012. Now takes on a pivotal role in the
They've been groomed, just like Boris Johnson would have been, just like Obama was.
Pretty sweeping reforms.
Groomed years ahead.
Services concerned, and we've seen several permanent secretaries, the most senior civil servants in individual departments, and indeed the previous cabinet secretary, finding themselves no longer in the roles that they were previously in. So this is a sign of that change. It's also a sign that it's not just police officers who seem to look younger as every year passes, because Simon Case is the most senior civil servant in the country, and he's just 41 years old.
Do you know what, Chris? I was just thinking that, and I thought it's
probably all that fucking adrenochrome stuff or whatever you want to call it, what they've been having on it.
Thank you.
It's probably why they're looking younger.
Now let's talk more about
all that young child blood, is it?
Andrew Webster, the head teacher of Parkview School in Tottenham, as they prepare to go back. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. When are the kids actually all back?
We're staggering the return throughout this week and next, but we're aiming that by next Thursday every child will have fully returned to school.
And what have you done to prepare?
Staggering.
It's been a
fucking staggering
program of
fucking guy needs to give his head a fucking shake.
We've had to maintain bubbles for year groups, and we're trying to prevent as much crossover.
Well, shame on you.
Between those year groups.
Fucking shame on you.
Some of the site teams have been working very hard, and we've done things like identify separate exit and entrances for year teams. We've staggered the starts and ends of day. And
what the fuck difference does it make what door you come in or go out of?
Get where we are now.
How are you feeling about the prospect?
You fucking started this at a gym that I know about. You come in one fucking door, you leave out through another fucking door. What the fuck difference does it make?
Is getting the best that they can out of the teaching process.
We've been very, very careful at Parkview not to limit any sorts of...
It's a bloody joke, the lot of it is.
We've extended our lessons to 19
one big joke, and the joke's being played out on the public.
Around the school. I think we are desperate to see the children back. We're very, very excited. They've been away for far too long now, and we'll do everything we can to ensure that return is very safe.
You're not desperate to see him return back at all. If government still kept him away from the scene, you wouldn't even be on telly saying a fucking single thing.
There's been stuff in the...
You're only giving a speech because they're coming back.
Just having to prepare for maybe...
Didn't raise his head. That guy didn't raise his head while they were in lockdown, saying I'm desperate to see him come back, did he?
There are going to be
that's a fact, isn't it?
In terms of the management of...
Where was he showing his face?
In a school...
When they were in lockdown. I want all these kids to come back to school. I want them to come back. I'm desperate to see them come back. No, he's only showing his face now because they're coming back.
Forced behaviour is going to be critical.
It's as simple as that.
To maintain the school as a COVID-safe site. But as a school generally, we take a trauma-informed approach to behaviour management. So I think the first thing we're going to be looking at is really a recovery curriculum for the children. Many of them have been away for a very long time and had perhaps little structure within their lives. So what we're going to do first of all is take a nurturing approach to the young people, find out how their time has been, rather than coming in the sort of hard line. Yes, we have very clear rules.
Nurturing approach. Fucking hell, I think he's a bit bigger than nurturing.
How they should behave. But I think
treating people like complete fools.
They return safely, that they're feeling happy, and I think from that we can then ensure that the behaviour is positive.
And what are your thoughts on
feeling happy? Come and stand on this square.
And how quickly do you want the
see these lines down corridor? Make sure you stick to your left. Make sure you come down here. You've got to act as though you're in a car. Oh, you know when you're in a car with your parents, your mum and dad. Stay to your left. You know when you're in a car. Imagine it's like that, and you'll be all right. Don't stand too close to your friend, will you? You know that lad over there who you've been friends with since you started school? Don't go near him, will you? What, the kids are going to be happy with that?
So my personal view is that a
fucking delusional, this guy.
Beneficial, but yes, I do believe if they are going to carry on with the exam model, that it's very, very important that they are delayed slightly in whatever way they can to ensure the children don't miss out.
Andrew Webster, good luck with the...
Andrew Webster,
thank you for joining us.
Take your head from out of your arsehole, pal.
Policing, justice and the recent violent protests in American cities are turning into central issues in the US election campaign. On Monday,
I've had a text this morning off my brother.
Has been charged with killing 2 people during protests.
They're pushing the Black Lives Matter.
Of a black man, Jacob Blake.
He's apparently been given the go-ahead for a Black Lives Matter fucking protest. Somebody wanted anti-fucking coronavirus protest, and he's been stopped from doing so.
It's under investigation.
So we know what are the drivers. George Soros's Black Lives fucking Matter bullshit.
Well, President Trump and his presidential rival Joe Biden have made bitter attacks on each other over the issue of law and order. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes reports.
Come on, Trump. Give the guy a bloody pasting.
It's polling day, and Americans are facing a stark choice. With violence and civil unrest on the streets of several cities, including outside the White House, law and order is emerging as the issue that could decide this bitterly fought election. Portland has been the epicenter of Black Lives Matter protests ever since the police killing of George Floyd.
The fraud killing of George Floyd. I don't believe he was killed at all. It was all to fucking steer the fucking Black Lives Matter bullshit.
He was a supporter of a right-wing group.
I mean, what the hell that's got to do with anything? Black Lives Matter. Every single person who breathes oxygen matters to me.
The violence and destruction that we've seen in recent weeks and months has occurred in cities
regardless what bloody colour you are.
By the Joe Biden party.
It is a familiar theme from the president, now focused more than ever on
look at them, all for show. All for show.
In America, we will never surrender to mob rule, because if the mob rules...
Just before the cameras start rolling, they say, make sure you've got your masks on.
The reason we're
make sure you've got your masks on.
In left-wing cities today is that liberal
we've got to portray to the public that there's a pandemic going on out there.
Refusing to enforce the law and put the rioters in jail.
Earlier, the former vice president said the policies of Donald Trump were to blame.
He can't stop the violence because for years he's fomented it. You know, he may believe mouthing the word...
Half of this stuff, I think, is just a fucking phony show.
His failure to call on his own supporters...
I'll never forget what Jesse Ventura once said. Politics is like wrestling. We're all fighting each other in the ring and best buddies behind closed doors. It's a good point, isn't it?
Biden also lashed out at the way he says Mr. Trump spreads lies about him, and he spelled out his own view of law and order.
I want to make it absolutely clear, something very clear about all of this. Rioting is not...
Well, that'd be a good idea if you started to be clear. But none of them are clear.
Is not protesting.
They're all a bunch of lying gits.
It's lawlessness, plain and simple.
A week after violent protests followed the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin, President Trump is travelling to the city of Kenosha to see for himself some of the damage caused to property and to meet law enforcement personnel. He'll not be speaking to the family.
It's all to push this Black Lives stuff. That's all it is.
And Mr. Trump said that was inappropriate. The White House said it would be a unifying visit. Peter Bowes, BBC News, Los Angeles.
An update on our headlines on BBC News. Schools in England and Wales begin reopening from today with a warning that many pupils have fallen 3 months behind with their learning.
3 months? They've been off school longer than 3 months. And they don't need to tell us that. It's fucking highly obvious. We all fucking know. We all know schools have been shut down. They don't have to tell us that, do they?
Child poverty in the UK.
That's enough. BS News.
Some familiar faces. Joshua Wong and Lester Shum, prominent pro-democracy activists.
Good on them. Good on them.
The central government in the testing has turned what's on the surface a public health scheme into a political row.
Free COVID testing.
The activists suggested that people's DNA will be.
What would you really go for it, even if it was fucking, if you'd have to pay for it?
The Hong Kong government says no DNA will be taken and no tests.
Of course, it's all DNA collection.
There are different.
It's obvious they're going to deny it. They ain't going to admit it, are they? Yeah, we're getting your DNA.
Testing is the concern about why we're spending so much money on testing lots and lots of people who are going to be negative. I think it would be a better strategy to focus on testing.
We're in a war zone. Thousands of people are dropping dead on the streets
every week.
But you need a test to prove it. You know what I mean?
Told media senior doctors have not been consulted on the plans.
What garbage.
But in a sign of just how politicised this issue has become,
being told two opposites.
The scheme have been tarred with the same brush.
People are dropping dead on a weekly basis. Loads of thousands are dying. Yet they can't prove it. Everyone needs to be tested to prove if you've got COVID. How does that work out?
In the programme. What is the motive behind their acts to prevent the Hong Kong people from participating in the universal community testing? There is only one I can think of, which is political calculations.
That's right.
And Beijing's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office called testing opponents anti-China radicals with a vile disregard for public health.
Rubbish. Well, they will do. They will slate them down. Anybody who stands up against government should be branded. It's been going on for a number of years now.
From the beginning, the government has only had one goal: using the coronavirus control to do whatever it can to please the central government of China.
Yes, very well said.
Hong Kong is just emerging from a third surge in coronavirus cases that began in early July. The stated aim of this scheme is to fully stamp out the virus and open up
First place where anyone needs to go.
But experts have warned that as many.
If they want someone blamed for COVID and start asking questions, and everyone who was sat at that fucking event 201, because they seem to know more about what was happening than anyone else.
Rebecca Bailey, BBC News.